So I got my swim ladder mounted here. So that will make getting on and off the boat a lot better. Drilled my hole for my gas fuel line. I got a longer pipes because it's a longer run now. And that's gonna mount there so I can fill the gas from the outside. And I'm still working out this floor here, just draining all the water out of the back. But what I'm really excited about is these lights I got at Princess Auto. So I got a nice LED light bar that I'm gonna mount up here. So that'll be a spotlight slash deck light slash light the heck up out of everything in front of the boat light. It's super bright. I think it's like 400 watts or something like that. So that's gonna go on the front. Now, one thing I've noticed, even having a spotlight on our other boat, is they don't really work that well as far as lighting up the water. You got to get them right down low, like above the water, to be able to see the water, because the water just absorbs the light at night. So it probably won't be that good for, like, you know, seeing way in front of the boat. But if you're moving along the shore of the lake and that sort of stuff, the spotlight lights up the shore and the coast a lot better than the actual water. So it's still definitely dangerous to use a boat at night without the proper light set up and just proper conditions. Ultimately, moonlight is the best because then you see the reflection on the water. But this light will be great for, you know, as you're coming up to the dock, boom, just lights everything up, the whole shore and everything, as well as I got these two smaller lights that are going to go on the back of the boat. So I'll also have light behind me, so if I'm, you know, maneuvering around the dock or something like that, I can see behind me, make sure I don't hit the log boom. So lights are good. All right, so I'm trying to install this little diesel heater here. So I've got my exhaust pipe kind of bent up so that it'll fit there. And what I'm trying to do is put it in the corner here. So the heater's gonna kind of sit up against the wall here, like so. But I gotta raise it up off the ground a little bit, just because the piping and everything is underneath the heater. Then I've got this through wall connector for the exhaust pipe, all right, that comes with gaskets and everything. That one goes on each side, then you bolt it through. So I'm just about to cut the hole for that. It's gonna come like that, obviously. I got as far as I could with the jigsaw. Now I gotta die grind the rest here. There we go, exhaust vent. So I got my windows all drawn in here. So I got a little window there with an angle. That's going to be a sliding opener. That's the biggest one. As well as two on the back. Basically just windows all the way around. I want to have as much visibility as possible, and we're going to do a double windshield on the front here. So it's time to start cutting. Hold up.
Okay. Ah, now I understand. Ah,
Okay, put that down.
I'll put these in.
Okay, can you hold that?
Okay.
Okay, put one hand up as high as you can. There you go.
Okay. Ooh, yay. Ooh, time to chocolate. Go over here. Awesome. I'm liking it a lot. I like it. I like it. I very much like it. Yes, I like it. I like that. I like that. Oh.
All right, I just wanted to send a big thank you to Odie's Oil, U2 Fasteners, Granberg International Chainsaw Mills, and Princess Auto for partnering with me on this wild journey. I have turned down hundreds of sponsorship opportunities over the years, if not thousands, but these brands have come through for me on countless projects. So I encourage you guys to click the links in the description box below and check out what they have to offer. Thanks again, guys. Let's get back to the video. Big one.
Very, very big.
More to go!
Time to get out there. Wish I could barely lift it. Oh my gosh. Woo! I'm dead! Alright, that's very, very big window.
What did you do?
Put some pressure up on that. Oh yeah, just my 6 feet. How do I hold that?
So what are you doing?
So we got the foam board glued up there now. Hopefully that'll stick. And then I'm using these little furring strips and try and get a screw into the rafters right there. I was hoping for a little bit more meat, but should be enough. And I'll put some self-tapping screws through there into the rafters so that I'm not puncturing the roof or the outer walls of the cabin. And then that'll act as backing that I can put my tongue and groove over the arched roof here. So it's going to work pretty well. I just got to cut a little filler strip here, do the rest of these with the foam glue. And then the cabin will be semi-insulated, at least on the roof. Keep the condensation down, and I'm thinking it might stiffen the roof up a little bit too, having the foam glued in there. When you walk on the roof, it kind of dents down a little bit. You know, like the hood of a car if you stand on it. So hopefully add some rigidity to that, and it's gonna look really nice.
Having fun, Adam?
Like give and take. It's just like paint drying, but better.
Aren't you so glad you came to visit us?
It's always a pleasure. Who doesn't take the tape off before it rains? That's what I'd like to.
Apparently Jesse. Wet painter's tape. So fun.
Well, he wanted me to score it before I started peeling it, but honestly, it comes off pretty easy without it.
Yeah.
Cuts pretty nice lines.
The heat gun is the key, hey?
Well, it helps keep the tape together.
Today, I'm just going to be prepping some of this cedar TNG I got here. So I just picked up this tight knot 1x6 cedar tongue and groove. Got a few little stains on it. I don't really like these large V joints that they do on all the tongue and groove that you get nowadays. It's just a little overkill if you ask me. And so yeah, some of these have some like blemishes on them. So I'm gonna run them through the planer here just to take off like a 1/16, kind of knock that bevel down a bit. It'll also flatten the face because some of these have like a bit of a cup in them, you can see. So it should flatten that out and give me a nice new clean surface. Probably have some planer marks on there, so I'll sand them. And then I'm just gonna pre-coat them all with Odie's oil and buff it off. So that way, you know, when I'm putting them in, I'm not getting like oily fingerprints that'll then kind of show up. And because it's a boat, you know, it's good to treat everything with oil. Like raw wood will get really dirty kind of pretty quick. Because I'm going to be putting some fishing rod holders on the ceiling to kind of store rods and that sort of stuff up overhead. So, you know, you'll have hands kind of grabbing and rubbing against the wood here. So let's get a coat of oil on it. That's what I say. Hey. So this is the first time I've turned my ran my planer and actually put some wood through it since I set up the shop. It's crazy how long it's been. It's like 6 months or something. August, September, October, November, December, January. Yeah, 6 months since I built anything in the shop. It's been a nice break, but it's time to get back to it. All right, so they're all sanded, and I'm going to start rubbing in the Odie's here. I'm using the gray pad, which is like a fine abrasive. I think it's about 220 to 300 grit. So it's kind of like wet sanding as you apply your finish. A little goes a long way with this stuff. You just want to keep working it in because you're wiping off all the excess immediately after you're done applying it. So, you know, putting it on super thick just means you're wasting finish. You know, multiple thin coats is going to be a much better product in the end. So I'll just stretch it out as far as you can go. I kind of go over it to kind of pick up the residual finish. work it back into my pad and then just keep get dog hair everywhere in this house. Now I'm gonna go steal a grubby towel from the linen closet and just use that to wipe it off. Because the towel, the terry towel kind of fibers, they really soak up the excess oil better than just like a clean rag, you know? One of my favorite things about this is it's not like a spray on or roll on finish, even though the super duper oil you can spray and roll it. As soon as you wipe it off, like you can handle it. Like it's not gonna leave like smudges, and even if there is like a fingerprint, you can just buff it off. So it's definitely the most forgiving finish that I've ever worked with. And just that natural wood is just, oh, I love the natural color. So done with stains. Let the wood speak for itself. So we got, I think about 15 boards. It's about they're 8 feet long and enough to do about a 6 foot wide ceiling on the boat. And I used about 1/3 of a jar that was left there. And then barely even dipped into that one. So maybe a half jar. So it goes to show you how far that stuff will stretch. That's a fair bit of surface area there. And only used a half a jar. All right, I got the first board up there. I left a bit of a gap so that if I ever have to, I'm gonna put like a trim piece up here so that I have access to this wiring little chase that goes to the back there. And that way I can just pop down the trim boards that I put around the top if I ever have to run another wire or fix one of these ones. And then I've got my wire hanging there for the little dome light that'll be in the middle. So it's pretty much just a straight shot now. I'm gonna throw up these boards and get a nice ceiling on here. It's gonna be sexy.
nails the ceiling.
All right, guys. Well, I knew it was going to happen eventually, so I just went for it, you know? No time to waste. That's kind of like the samurai's motto. So let me show you my new tool. Dun, 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 dun. I bought a TIG welder. Do I know how to TIG? Nope. And I also picked this little beast up. Got this at Princess Auto, and it is a tubing bender. So I figured now that I've got an aluminum boat and a whole bunch of things that I want to fabricate that require welding and bending of tubes, that it was just time to go for it. I've spent way too much money paying buddies and fabricators and welders to do the work for me, and to be quite honest, I've just been jealous of all the welding and fun stuff that they get to do that I just have to watch. And I'm a doer, I'm not a watcher. So it's time I learn how to TIG. So that way I'm going to use this tubing bender to build like a little bimini roof on my center console Parker boat that we use in the summertime, just to, you know, so it'll be good, better into the spring and into the fall, handle a little bit of rain, put a taller windshield on it, and then it'll also offer shade in the summertime. And then obviously I'll use my work boat as my winter cold weather boat. But for those of you who haven't done any welding, welding is so much fun. Like, I definitely could have been a fabricator in another life, and I might become one. Because I'm starting to amass metalworking tools now. Uh-oh, look out, you metalworkers. Samurai's coming for you. Not really, but I'm a hobbyist. And I got this little Lincoln Precision TIG 225. It's not a sponsorship. I paid for this thing. It's used, but it's in really good shape. And my buddies that are fabricators said that it's a really nice machine. So got a pretty sweet deal on it, and now I have to learn how to use it. So this is the unit here. For those of you who haven't seen a tubing roller before, kind of cool. I don't exactly know how to use it yet, but it looks pretty straightforward. So you kind of put your pipe in there. This roller would go on top of it, and then you screw that tighter, and then roll these die, and it, you know, bends your tubes into nice circular corners and that sort of stuff. Comes with 1-inch dies, 1.5 inch, and 2-inch dies. Tubius, bendius, meridius. That is what I shall call you. So this is the floor plate that's got a hatch in it to be able to get down to the bilge pump area and the mechanical underneath the floor. So I'm just cutting a section of this out, and that's going to be the hatch that hinges up. Now I'm just gonna cut a piece of piano hinge and then rivet it on the underside, and then just bevel these edges, and it should be able to open up to about 90. Other than that, or put the hinge on top, which kind of doesn't look classy, you know? So it turns out these 3/16 rivets, the hole in the hinge was about a 1/4 inch, and I thought that the rivet would swell and really grab that hinge, but it didn't. And I drove all over town looking for 1/4 inch rivets, but pretty much nobody carries those. So I just went to the hardware, the marine place, and I'm just going to use these 3/4 inch screws and just countersink them flush, and just put a lock nut on the bottom. That'll hold it. So it's a little bit more work to do nuts on everyone, but oh well. We're learning, aren't we? At least I am.
Let's just watch.
Yeah, baby. actually really pleased with how well this little door track system worked out. Got my high density polyethylene in there, HDPE I think they call it. And then I screwed a piece to the bottom of the door that's wider, so that keeps the door from rubbing on the inside as well as on the outside of the track, so there's no aluminum on aluminum contact. And then I did the same thing up here. I just cut a strip of the HDPE, and so that way the doesn't touch the aluminum at all, and it slides really nice. So all I got to do now is weld a piece of angle on here so that the door kind of nests into that when I close it, and then I'll put a weather strip on the inside of that. That way no wind or anything will come in there. So I'm gonna try welding that on. Might get my buddy Carl to help me, or I might try it myself, but I gotta practice with my new welder here because I am not good at TIG welding yet. Well, I got the latches in. Gotta wait for the Sikaflex to dry before I can open them up and bolt them on with these little washers underneath. Put in a couple of stainless drink holders here on the dash. Got the ceiling in with the Odys on it. It's looking sexy. I have to wait on the windows to get installed before I can finish the whole rest of this with 1/2-inch ply and trim it all out. It's gonna look samurai, you know. Built some benches out of that hemlock that I got, the clear hemlock, and I'm gonna trim the whole cabin out with that as well, so it's gonna look pretty nice on the inside. But the windows are still like 4 weeks away. 5 weeks, I think, even. I think February. No, it is February. I don't know. They said like 5 or 6 weeks. So, in the meantime, got to load up all the shingles here and get them out to the lake. And because I got a good deal on the shingles, I'm gonna save the 1x10 that I was gonna do board and batten with, and do the cabin with shingles because it just looks so good. So that's what I'm going to be working on while I wait for the windows, and I'm itching to get back out there now, so I'm putting this boat in the water as is. Oh, we're underway, guys. My load's a little to the left, so the boat's leaning pretty hard. Not pretty hard, but it's leaning. But I'm not going to be able to get this thing up on a plane, I don't think, so I don't think the trim tabs will do anything. So we'll just ride her as is, and then once I get this thing offloaded, take it out for a little test drive just to see how she rides. Well, everything was going great until it wasn't. And I dropped the pallet of shingles. So I wasn't really paying attention to my bucket. And I started kind of going up over this steep rock. And the bucket angle wasn't straight enough. So one of the straps slipped off the tooth and all my shingles came falling down. So I'm just gonna hand bomb them the rest of the way teach myself a lesson. But yeah, it's the first time I've tried slinging a pallet with an excavator, so you know, it's a rite of passage. We all gotta drop something every once in a while, and I know what to look for next time and what to avoid. So it's just the education, right? I think it was Oscar Wilde said, you know, experience is the greatest teacher. You have the experience first, and then the lesson comes afterwards. You know, as opposed to in a school environment, you have the lesson first, and then hopefully experience it. So I just like to do things the other way around. But I will not forget this lesson. Well, we got the boat unloaded. Second pallet went a lot smoother than the first. Now, to test out the features on this thing, start with my nice little bow ladder here. That makes getting up on the boat a heck of a lot easier. Time to take this thing for a little joyride. So thankfully, as I drove into the parking lot here at the lake ready to launch my boat, I remembered that I had taken out the bilge plug in my boat, and I need to put that back in before I drop it in the water, because with all the weight on that boat and the fact that I'm going to be plowing water to get out to the cabin, I'd probably be sunk by the time I realized that I didn't put the plug back in. And those, yeah, the bilge pumps would not have been able to keep up with that. So there's all sorts of lessons here. And I'm thankful that that just popped into my head. I don't know where it came from, but and that kind of got me to thinking, like, oh my gosh, there's so many things to do, so many things on the checklist. It's kind of overwhelming. And the channel is always changing, it's always growing, and we're kind of in another transition period as my brother-in-law Adam is going in a different direction now, and so he's not going to be working with me anymore. It's just a little too chaotic now that we were living in different towns, and just the transfer of all the information back and forth, and his work schedule, and with his kids and coaching basketball, and just me being all over the map, you know, doing all sorts of different things all the time. Like, there just wasn't enough consistency to make it worth his while on my part, and so we just decided to, like, call it. And so I'm back in the saddle, guys. I'm a one-man show again, the way it all started. So I got to do all my editing, which I've totally forgotten how to do. I was opening up my program last night, and I don't even know how to use my editing program anymore. So I have to relearn how to do that, which I can do. Hopefully it'll come back to me pretty quickly if I just get a few tips and pointers from Adam. And it's just so easy to get overwhelmed by life, you know. You guys are probably all feeling the same thing in whatever life you're living. And there is this, like, I find that there's this desire, this instinct to, like, get away from it all, right? To simplify. That's why I'm out here. That's why I'm trying to do this, to simplify my life. And but in a way, it's becoming way more complicated. But it's a different kind of complication. And I'm noticing that it's more of like a relationship with my environment. And so, yeah, there's a lot of learning to do. There's a lot of awareness that has to you know, come into being, I guess. And so that I can live harmoniously with creation, or my creator, whatever you want to call it. And you can't really avoid that. And I find that if you do avoid it, if you do just kind of go and get a job and, you know, shut your brain off, you know, there's benefits to that But then over time, I've noticed that when I used to work jobs that were kind of just like show up, do the work, leave, over time you feel like there's this void or whatever in your life where something is missing, and you're missing that connection, you're missing that relationship. It's just too robotic, I guess. I don't know. And so it seems like no matter where we go, we can't outrun ourselves, and our bodies are always trying to communicate with us how to live well on this earth. And so, and at this point you're probably wondering, like, why the hell are you telling us this, Jesse? We don't care about your inner monologue. And I get that you shouldn't. Why would you care about some random YouTuber guy that you've never even met, most of you? And then I was like, so why are you doing it, Jess? Why do you got to talk? Like, why do you have to, like, just shut your mouth and do the work? And I'm like, yeah, that works for a lot of stuff, but it doesn't work all the time. And I got to get this stuff out. I gotta process this sort of stuff. So a lot of processing I can do internally, but some of it I got to get out. And then I'm like, well, why are you sharing it with people, strangers on the internet? Share it with your wife, share it with your friends. And I'm like, yeah, I do that too. But what it comes down to is why I need to kind of get this stuff out and kind of share the whole process of this story is hopefully it'll contact or impact is the word I'm looking for, somebody out there that's maybe in the same place. If it helps one person to see my struggle and to be able to associate with that and get some sort of comfort or guidance or anything, watching my story, then it's worth it. But the other reason why I'm doing it is, and maybe it's kind of morbid, but if something was ever to happen to me, if an accident happened out of the property, or maybe I get hit by a bus or something like that, and my boys don't have a father anymore, this channel is going to be a really important resource to them, for them to be able to see who I was and my struggle and how I lived, and hopefully be able to glean wisdom from that and guide their life. So, I'm just putting it out there because you never know what's going to happen in this life. And why not do your best to help as many people as possible in whatever way possible? So that's just kind of my take as to why I do this. Maybe that's just a narcissistic way of justifying, ranting to the camera all the time. Who knows? I know I got a lot of growing to do, and I'm not afraid of growth. As painful as it is at times, I'm just in it. There's no avoiding it. I've learned that much now after 39 years. You can't really avoid life. It's going to catch up with you in one way or another. And the one thing I don't want is to ignore all the signs that my body is sharing with me, that nature and my creator is sharing with me, and then have it manifest in some other unhealthy way, whether, disease or whatever in my body, just because I wasn't paying attention and listening to the signs. And so yeah, if I am going to go out, I want to go out, I want to go out clean. I was just at the gas station talking with the clerk there, and he was talking about how there's this big earthquake in Turkey. I didn't even know. And, all these people had died, and I was like, oh, it's brutal. And we're out here on the Pacific coast of Canada where, they say there's going to be a big earthquake. And it kind of gets you thinking, like, oh, no, earthquake. Should I prepare for an earthquake? And it's like, man, we're all dying. We're all moving towards death. Whether or not you pay attention to that or acknowledge it, it's like we're all staring death in the face. We just got to live our life, and whenever it comes, it comes. I'm just trying to do it with a clear conscience, and to not waste this precious gift that I've been given each day, each breath. You got to take it all in, because it'll be over in the blink of an eye. That's how death works. Well, I gotta say, that is a sexy boat. You might not think so, but I do. Oh, I can't wait to finish that shark mouth paint job. So I know some guys were mentioning in the comments, like, because the cabin is off center, is that going to throw off the center of gravity for the boat while it's riding? I didn't notice anything leaning at all. You know, it's like, it's just the weight of the, aluminum, from the edge of the center console. Like, so these sheets here, aluminum 1/8 sheets, only about 100 pounds a sheet, not even. And then the ladders on this side obviously add a bit of weight, but maybe not the same amount. But I didn't notice anything, and whatever tiny little bit of unevenness there was, the trim tabs sorted that out no problem. The trim tabs worked so good. I don't know if you noticed, I was kind of adjusting them there on that test drive, and it just pulled the nose right down beautifully, and I was moving them from side to side. They kicked up a bit of a rooster tail, but I think that's what trim tabs do. I don't know if you guys have more boating knowledge than I do. I'm sure a lot of you viewers do, but the spray was starting about like a third of the back from the hull there, which I think is kind of what you want, right? The boat seemed to be planing really, really flat. It was super stable. The wake looked pretty good. The motor wasn't making any weird sounds that I could tell. And she did not porpoise at all. Before, I couldn't go above about 4,400 RPM without it starting to porpoise. The bow would kind of slam. But with the trim tabs, the bow just came right down nicely. And I had it up over 5,000 RPM, and she was just planing like beautifully. So I am just ecstatic. I thought the swim steps on the back might catch the water a bit, because they're pretty long. They're like 2 foot sticking out. But when she was up planing, other than a bit of spray from the trim tabs that are under the swim steps, kind of catching the edge of the swim step, they weren't hitting or dragging or affecting the plane at all. So that worked out well. And what else can I say? Like, I've been dreaming about this boat reno ever since I got the skiff in the water, like getting the rails and the cabin on it. The windows are gonna make life just a dream. I'm still freezing my balls off in there, with the wind coming through and hitting you in the face. Like, the lower body was nice though. So once the glass is in this thing, it's gonna be beautiful. Having these nice offloading areas, being able to remove these rail sections is pretty sweet. They're a little sticky, but it's aluminum, I don't know if I should try greasing it or something, but come on. But they'll stay in place most of the time anyways. It's just when I'm loading and unloading materials. But you can climb off the back here really easily. So even though I'm not a nautical engineer or naval architect or whatever they're called, I think this boat reno turned out really nice. It's a very nice.